My daughter Lisa called me from her new house in Beaverton, her voice trembling with something I couldn't place, but her next words made my stomach drop and changed everything I thought I knew about her marriage. "Dad, I can't do this anymore. They're treating me like I'm nothing in my own home," she whispered. And in the background, I heard Derek's mocking laughter and his mother Patricia's sharp voice commanding my daughter to bring fresh coffee. I thought it was temporary tension, family adjusting to new space. But when I arrived at the house I'd bought for Lisa, the house I'd sold half my construction company to afford, Patricia opened the door wearing Lisa's bathrobe and told me I wasn't welcome without an invitation. 3 weeks later, when I tossed that manila envelope onto Lisa's kitchen table and the photographs spilled out, Patricia's face drained of every drop of color. They never saw it coming. But 3 weeks earlier, everything had been different. The day I signed the purchase papers for Lisa's house, June sunlight poured through the windows of the real estate office on Southwest Broadway, warming the dark wood conference table where I sat across from the seller's agent. The house cost $473,000, every cent I'd scraped together from selling my half of Martinez Brothers Construction to my brother Carlos. Lisa didn't know the price, didn't know what I'd given up. She only knew I'd promised her this house when she was 7 years old, sketching it on a diner napkin while her mother ordered pancakes. 2 stories, large windows, a garden where roses could grow. My wife Elena had laughed then, not unkindly, saying dreams were free but houses weren't. Elena had been gone 8 years now, cancer taking her before she could see Lisa graduate college, before Derek came into our lives, before I could keep the promise we'd made together on that Sunday morning. The agent slid the keys across the table with practiced efficiency, her manicured nails clicking against the brass. "Congratulations, Mr. Martinez. Your daughter's going to love it." I picked up the keys, feeling their weight, feeling the 27 years of construction work that had made this moment possible. The early mornings, the scraped knuckles, the summers when Portland's heat made the job sites feel like ovens. Worth it, every day worth it. I called Lisa from the parking lot, leaning against my truck with the keys warming in my palm. "Sweetheart, I've got something for you." "Dad," her voice brightened. "What is it? Remember the house you drew? The one with the big windows?" Silence then. "Dad, that was just a kid's drawing." "Not anymore." My throat tightened. "Come to 847 Northwest Evelyn Street. Right now." She arrived 47 minutes later, Derek's BMW pulling up behind my truck. Lisa stepped out first, her sundress catching the breeze, her dark hair, Elena's hair, falling across her face. Then Derek emerged, phone already in, his hand barely glancing at the house. He'd proposed to Lisa 2 years ago at some expensive restaurant downtown, and I'd paid for the wedding 6 months later. $63,000 for a day Lisa said was perfect. Derek worked in finance, something about hedge funds that I never fully understood, always busy, always distracted. "Dad, what's going on?" Lisa's eyes moved from me to the house, not yet understanding. I held out the keys. "It's yours, the house you drew. I promised you, remember?" Her hand flew to her mouth. "No, Dad, no. This costs. Already done. It's in your name." Derek spoke for the first time, his voice flat. "Not my taste, El." The words landed wrong, sharp-edged, but Lisa wasn't listening. She was running toward the house, fumbling with the keys, pushing open the door. I followed her through rooms that still smelled of fresh paint, watching her trace her fingers along walls, press her forehead against the large kitchen windows that overlooked the garden space. She was crying, the good kind of tears, and I thought about Elena. Wish she could see this. "Thank you," Lisa whispered, wrapping her arms around me. "Thank you, Dad." Derek stood in the doorway, scrolling through his phone. "We'll need to change some things. Paint colors. Maybe knock out a wall." I should have paid more attention to those words. Should have noticed how he said, "we'll change," instead of "Lisa might want." But I was watching my daughter's face, seeing her joy, and I missed the warning signs that would become impossible to ignore within days. The moving day arrived 5 days later, Thursday morning, and I took the day off from my current construction project, a commercial renovation in Northeast Portland, to help Lisa settle in. I arrived at 7 to find Derek's family already there. His mother, Patricia, his father, Gerald, his sister, Vanessa, with her husband, Mark. Patricia wore cream-colored slacks and a silk blouse that probably cost more than my weekly grocery bill, her blonde hair pulled back tight enough to smooth any warmth from her face. She directed movers with clipped commands, rearranging Lisa's furniture before Lisa even arrived with the first carload of boxes. "The couch goes against the south wall," Patricia announced, not asking, "and those curtains absolutely won't work. Gerald, make a note. We need to order new window treatments." Gerald nodded without looking up from his tablet. He worked in commercial real estate, Patricia had mentioned during the wedding reception, closing deals that dwarfed anything I'd ever touched. Mark and Vanessa examined the kitchen, opening cabinets, running water, testing the stove. It felt invasive, this inspection, but I told myself they were being helpful, being family. Lisa arrived at 8:30, Derek pulling up in his BMW. She looked tired, dark circles under her eyes suggesting sleep hadn't come easy. She'd been packing for days, sorting through the apartment she'd shared with Derek for the past year, keeping some things, discarding others. She smiled when she saw me, that familiar warmth that reminded me so much of Elena. But the smile dimmed when she noticed Patricia directing movers inside her house. "Mom wanted to help get everything organized," Derek said, brushing past Lisa with a box. "She's good at this stuff." The morning unfolded in a rhythm I didn't control. Patricia orchestrated the placement of every item, overriding Lisa's gentle suggestions with firm alternatives. "Dishes go in the upper cabinets, dear. It's more efficient. These towels need replacing. They're practically threadbare. Is this your artwork? Perhaps we should find somewhere less prominent." Lisa's shoulders drew tighter with each comment, her voice growing smaller, but she didn't argue. Just nodded, smiled, thanked them for their help. By noon, the house no longer felt like Lisa's dream. It felt like Patricia's project, Derek's mother's vision imposed on Lisa's carefully sketched childhood drawing. I pulled Lisa aside in the garden, where rose bushes waited to be planted, where we could speak without Patricia's corrections hanging in the air. "You okay, sweetheart?" "I'm fine, Dad." She didn't meet my eyes. "They're just trying to help." Patricia seems pretty involved. "She means well. Derek says she wants us to start off right, you know? Not make the mistakes they made when they were newlyweds." Lisa picked at a fingernail, a nervous habit from childhood. "She's offered to come by a few times a week, help me learn to run the house properly." The phrase, "run the house properly," settled wrong in my chest, but I didn't push. This was Lisa's marriage, Lisa's life, and I'd raised her to make her own decisions. Even when those decisions worried me. Even when Derek's mother's heels clicked through Lisa's house like she owned every inch of floor. I stayed until 4, helping move boxes, assembling furniture, trying to carve out space for Lisa in the hurricane of Patricia's helpful suggestions. When I left, Patricia was refolding the linen closet, explaining proper storage techniques while Lisa stood beside her, nodding, her hands empty because Patricia had taken over the task entirely. Derek walked me to my truck, his expression unreadable. "Thanks for helping, Robert. This place is great. Lisa's lucky." "She earned it," I said. "Every bit of it." "Right." Derek's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned. "Look, about my mom, she can be intense, but she cares. Lisa knows that." "Does she?" He met my eyes then, something cold flickering there. "Lisa needs to learn how things work. My family has expectations, standards." His phone buzzed again. "I've got to take this. Drive safe." I drove back to my cottage in southeast Portland, the small 2-bedroom place I'd moved to after selling the house Elena and I had raised Lisa in. The cottage had been enough. I didn't need much space, didn't need the memories that haunted every corner of our old home. But now, driving through familiar streets as afternoons stretched toward evening, I felt uneasy. Patricia's voice echoed in my head, those clipped corrections, the way she'd taken control of Lisa's kitchen, Lisa's closets, Lisa's life. The unease proved justified within days. Lisa called me Tuesday evening, her voice careful, measured in that way that meant she was hiding something. "Hey, Dad, just checking in. How's the house? You settling in okay?" "Yeah, it's..." A crash in the background, glass breaking. Patricia's voice cut through, sharp and irritated. Lisa, honestly, can you not be more careful? Then Derek, laughing. She's always dropping things. Can't take her anywhere nice. Lisa, what's going on? Nothing, Dad. I just dropped a plate. I'm fine. That didn't sound like nothing. Patricia's here. She's teaching me. Another voice in the background. Derek's father, Gerald, saying something about dinner reservations. Dad, I have to go. I'll call you later. She didn't call later. Not that night. Not the next day. I texted Thursday morning. Everything okay? 3 hours passed before she responded. Busy day. Talk soon. I knew my daughter. Knew the spaces between her words, the pauses that meant trouble. But I also knew she was 27, married, living in her own house. I couldn't insert myself into her life uninvited, couldn't hover like she needed constant rescuing. So I waited. Worked on the commercial renovation, framing walls and installing drywall, trying not to think about the wrong timbre in Lisa's voice, the crash of breaking glass, Patricia's cutting irritation. Friday afternoon, I drove past Lisa's house on my way home from the job site. Derek's BMW sat in the driveway. So did Patricia and Gerald's Mercedes. So did Vanessa's Lexus. 4 vehicles, 5 people, all in Lisa's house at 3 in the afternoon on a weekday. I called Lisa. It rang 4 times before she answered, breathless. Dad, hi. I can't really talk right now. Is everyone still there? Silence. Long enough to confirm. They're staying for dinner. Patricia's making her famous pot roast. In your kitchen. Dad, please, I have to go. The call ended. I sat in my truck outside her house, watching through the large front windows I'd admired on the day I bought this place for her. Movement inside, Patricia gesturing, Lisa moving quickly to obey some unheard command. Derek sprawled on the couch, phone in hand. This wasn't a family dinner. This was something else. I drove home and forced myself to wait through the weekend. Let Lisa handle it. Let her marriage find its rhythm. But Sunday evening, my phone rang at 11:30, Lisa's name lighting up the screen. Dad, her voice cracked. Can you come get me? My heart hammered. What happened? I need... She was crying now, trying to muffle the sound. Please, I can't be here anymore. I'm coming. 20 minutes. I made it in 15, breaking every speed limit between Southeast, Portland and Beaverton. Lisa's house blazed with lights, every window bright against the dark street. I pounded on the door, not caring about the hour, not caring about waking neighbors. Derek opened it, annoyance crossing his face. Robert, it's almost midnight. Where's Lisa? Sleeping. She had a long day. No, I'm not. Lisa appeared behind Derek wearing sweatpants and one of Elena's old sweatshirts I'd given her years ago. Her eyes were red, swollen. I called him. Derek's jaw tightened. We talked about this, Elle. You can't just run to Daddy every time things get hard. Hard? The word came out broken. Derek, I've been cooking and cleaning for your entire family for 10 days straight. I'm exhausted. This is supposed to be our house, but I feel like I'm the help. That's dramatic, Derek crossed his arms. My family's trying to teach you how to be a proper wife. God knows someone needs to. The words hung between us, ugly and sharp. Lisa flinched. I stepped forward, putting myself between Derek and my daughter. Lisa's coming with me tonight. She's my wife. She's my daughter, and she asked me to come. Patricia appeared from the kitchen, silk robe tied perfectly despite the late hour. What's all this commotion? Some of us are trying to sleep. She noticed me, her expression cooling. Robert, how nice. Come to rescue Lisa from the terrible burden of hospitality? Come to take my daughter home, since her husband seems to have forgotten this is her house. Her house. Patricia smiled, thin and cold. Derek, show him the papers. Something in her tone made my stomach drop. Derek disappeared into the den, returning with a manila folder. He opened it, pulling out documents, handing them to me with a look I couldn't read. Triumph mixed with something darker. I scanned the pages. Property transfer agreements, signed statements, legal language I didn't fully understand but recognized as dangerous. According to these documents, Lisa had signed over a portion of her house ownership to Derek's family trust, giving them legal rights to occupancy and decision-making authority over the property. What is this? Lisa signed it last week, Patricia said smoothly. She wanted to make things official. Show her commitment to being part of our family. I looked at Lisa. She was shaking her head, tears streaming. I never signed anything like that. Dad, I swear. I never— You did, Derek interrupted. Remember? We went to see our lawyer. You signed the papers giving us equal stake in the house. Said you wanted everything to be truly ours. That was for adding you to the deed, not your whole family. Details. Patricia waved her hand dismissively. The point is, Robert, you can't just remove us from this property. We have legal standing here. And if you try anything, we'll take Lisa to court. Breach of contract. She'll lose everything. The room spun. This couldn't be real. Couldn't be legal. But the documents looked official. Stamps, signatures, notary seals. Whether they were legitimate or forged didn't matter in this moment. What mattered was they had papers, and papers meant lawyers, and lawyers meant Lisa could lose the house I'd sacrificed everything to give her. Lisa, get your things. Robert, Patricia started. Get your things. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't need to. 27 years of construction work had left me with hands scarred from accidents and a presence that made men twice my size step back. Patricia stopped talking. Lisa grabbed a bag from the hall closet, stuffed clothes and toiletries inside with shaking hands. Derek watched as silent now, whatever smug victory he'd felt minutes ago, replaced with something harder to read. Within 5 minutes, Lisa and I were in my truck, driving through empty streets toward my cottage. She cried the entire way, not speaking, just crying, deep racking sobs that shook her shoulders. I reached over, squeezed her hand, let her grieve the death of whatever dreams she'd had about this marriage, this house, this life. At my cottage, I made tea. Neither of us drank and put fresh sheets on the guest bed, the bed that had been hers when she visited after Elena died, the bed where she'd slept during college breaks, the bed that would always be hers whenever she needed refuge. I'm so stupid, she whispered around 2 in the morning, sitting at my kitchen table. I should have known, should have seen what they were doing. You're not stupid. You were trusting. That's different. They took my house, Dad. My dream house. The one you gave up everything for. We'll fix this. I said it with more confidence than I felt. Tomorrow, we'll figure it out. But tomorrow brought complications I hadn't anticipated. Monday morning, I called my brother Carlos, explaining the situation while I stood in my backyard, watching gray clouds gather over Portland's skyline. Carlos and I had built Martinez Brothers Construction from nothing, 20 years of blood and partnership, and splitting it had hurt us both. But he'd been understanding when I explained about Lisa's house, about the promise I'd made Elena. Now I needed his understanding again. You're saying they forged documents? Carlos's voice came through scratchy, construction site noise in the background. That's what Lisa claims. But they look real, Carlos. Notary stamps, legal language, the whole thing. Then you need a lawyer, not a construction guy. I know. I don't know where to start. Carlos was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his tone had shifted. Remember Jorge Gutierrez? His daughter married that lawyer, the one who handled the property dispute for the Wilsonville project. What was her name? Karen something. Thompson, Karen Thompson. Hold on. Sounds of Carlos moving, asking someone something, then back on the line. She's in Beaverton, specializes in property law and fraud cases. I'm texting you her number now. The text came through seconds. Later. I called immediately, reaching an assistant who scheduled me for that afternoon. A cancellation. Lucky timing. I told Lisa, who sat curled on my couch, still wearing yesterday's sweatpants, staring at nothing. We have to fight this, I said. We can't let them just take your house. What if the documents are real? Her voice was small. What if I signed something I didn't understand? Then we prove duress, prove manipulation. There are laws, Lisa. This isn't medieval times. They can't just— I stopped, seeing her face. Defeat lived there, in the slack way her mouth curved, the empty look in eyes that should have been bright with fury but had burned out to ash. Get dressed. We're going to the lawyer at 2. Karen Thompson's office occupied the second floor of a building on Southwest Broadway, modern glass and steel that made my cottage seem ancient by comparison. The receptionist led us into a conference room where Karen waited, early 40s, gray streaking through dark hair pulled into a practical ponytail, glasses perched on a nose that suggested someone who spent hours reading contracts. "Mr. Martinez, Lisa." She shook our hands with a firm grip. "Tell me what's happening." I let Lisa explain, watching Karen's expression shift from neutral attention to concerned focus as the story unfolded. Lisa's voice shook when she described Patricia's criticism, Derek's mockery, the way they'd transformed her house into their command post. When Lisa reached the part about the documents, Karen held up her hand. "Do you have copies?" "No, they wouldn't let me take them." "Tell me everything you remember, exact wording if possible." Lisa closed her eyes, reciting what she'd read in those terrible minutes before we left. Transfer of ownership rights, shared decision-making authority, legal occupancy protections. Karen took notes in neat handwriting, occasionally asking clarifying questions, her professional mask never slipping. When Lisa finished, Karen set down her pen and leaned back. "Those documents are fake." Relief flooded through me. "You're sure?" "I'd need to see them to confirm completely, but based on Lisa's description, they contain several legal impossibilities. You can't just sign over portions of property ownership to a family trust without extensive documentation, title company involvement, and registered deed changes. What you're describing sounds like someone with basic legal knowledge tried to create scary-looking papers, hoping you wouldn't call their bluff." "So we can just go back? Tell them to leave?" "Not exactly." Karen pulled out a legal pad, drawing a quick diagram. "Even if the documents are fraudulent, Derek and his family are currently occupying the property. If you try to remove them without proper procedures, they could claim squatters' rights, domestic dispute, all sorts of complications that would delay resolution for months." "Months?" Lisa's voice cracked. "I can't wait months." "I didn't say we'd wait. Months. I said improper removal would cause delays." Karen circled something on her diagram. "We need to approach this strategically. First, I'll file a formal demand for document verification with the county. That'll put them on notice that we're questioning the legitimacy of their claim. Second, we'll gather evidence of coercion and fraud, witness statements, financial records showing who actually purchased the property, anything that establishes Lisa as the sole legal owner." "How long does that take?" 2 weeks, maybe 3, if we move fast." Karen met Lisa's eyes. "I know that feels like forever when your home has been taken from you, but doing this right means doing it carefully. Otherwise, they could tie you up in court for years, draining your resources until you have nothing left to fight with." I thought about my half of Martinez Brothers construction, already sacrificed. Thought about my retirement savings. Not much, but enough to get by on when combined with Social Security. Thought about Lisa crying in my truck, broken and small. Whatever it costs, we'll do it. The retainer is $5,000. After that, we'll bill hourly at $250 per hour. Property fraud cases typically run between $15,000 and $30,000 total. $30,000. 6 months of my current salary. But what choice did I have? Done. When can we start? Right now. Karen pulled out a contract. "Sign this and I'll begin filing paperwork this afternoon." We signed, shook hands, walked out into afternoon sunlight that felt too bright for the darkness Lisa and I were navigating. In my truck, Lisa was quiet, staring at her hands. "Thank you, Dad." "Don't thank me. This is my fault. I should have seen what Derek was like. Should have protected you better." "I'm 27. I don't need protecting." "Everyone needs protecting sometimes, sweetheart. Even from people they love." Lisa turned to look at me, and I saw Elena in her face, the shape of her jaw, the way sadness pulled at the corners of her mouth. "I don't love him anymore. I don't think I ever did. I think I love the idea of being married, of having a family like Mom and you had. But Derek isn't you. His family isn't like us." The words settled heavy between us. At a red light on Burnside, I reached over and squeezed her hand. "We'll fix this, I promise." But promises felt thin against what we were facing. Karen worked fast, I'll give her that. By Wednesday, she'd filed demands for document verification with Multnomah County, sent formal legal notices to Derek and his family, and started building a case file that grew thicker by the day. But Derek's family had lawyers too, expensive ones. the kind who could delay and obstruct and turn simple cases into nightmares. Within 4 days, Karen called with bad news. They're claiming the documents are legitimate. Their lawyer says they have witnesses who saw Lisa sign voluntarily, and they're preparing a countersuit for defamation and harassment. That's insane. That's strategy. They're trying to scare you off, make you think fighting isn't worth it. Karen's voice held steel underneath. Don't be scared off. But Robert, I need you to understand. This could get ugly. They're not backing down. I understood ugly. Understood fights that lasted longer than anyone wanted. Battles that drained more than money. But I also understood stubbornness. The kind that came from building a business with your hands, from raising a daughter alone after cancer took your wife, from making promises you refused to break no matter what it cost. Let it get ugly. We're not backing down either. Over the next week, life fell into a strange rhythm. Lisa stayed at my cottage, sleeping late, helping with small construction projects I brought home, slowly returning to something resembling herself. I worked my regular job during the day. The commercial renovation in Northeast Portland was behind schedule, and the general contractor kept pushing for faster progress. At night, I reviewed documents with Karen over video calls, learning more about property law than I'd ever wanted to know. And every few days, I drove past Lisa's house, watching. Patricia's Mercedes appeared and disappeared on a schedule. Mornings mostly, sometimes afternoons. Derek's BMW came and went at unpredictable times. They'd settled in completely, living in Lisa's house like it had always been theirs. Like my daughter's dream had simply evaporated to make room for their entitlement. The anger grew, not hot rage. I'd left that behind years ago, learned on construction sites that fury made you sloppy, dangerous. This was cold anger, the calculated kind that waited for the right moment, the perfect opening. Derek's family thought they were smart, thought their fake documents and expensive lawyers would let them keep what they'd stolen. They didn't understand what a man could do when he had nothing left to lose except his daughter's happiness. 2 weeks after our first meeting with Karen, she called with news. The county verified the documents are fraudulent. The notary stamps are fake. The notary they claim witnessed Lisa's signature hasn't worked in that capacity for 3 years. We have them. So we can remove them? We can file for immediate eviction based on fraud. But Robert, there's something else. Karen's tone shifted, became careful. I did some digging into Patricia's background. Court records, property transactions, business filings. She's been involved in 3 previous property disputes in the last 10 years. All settled out of court. All involve family members claiming they'd been manipulated into signing over assets. She's done this before, multiple times, and each time she walks away clean. No criminal charges, no permanent records, just settlements that include non-disclosure agreements. Karen paused. I'm telling you this because evicting them might not be enough. People like Patricia, people like Derek, they don't learn. They'll find another victim, another family member to exploit, unless something stops them. What are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm a lawyer. I deal in legal remedies. Another pause, longer this time. But if you happen to find information that makes Patricia want to leave voluntarily, that makes her family reconsider their life choices, well, that would solve things much more cleanly than a messy court battle. The implication hung between us. Karen wasn't telling me to do anything illegal. She was pointing out that sometimes the most effective solutions existed outside courtrooms and legal filings. I understood. More than that, I agreed. If I wanted to find that kind of information, where would I look? Hypothetically, a good private investigator could be very helpful. I happen to know one. Stephen Hayes, works out of Portland. Very thorough. She gave me a number. Hypothetically. I called Stephen Hayes that afternoon from my truck during a break at the job site. His voice was gruff. No nonsense. A cop's voice, though he told me later he'd left the force 15 years ago to start his own firm. I explained the situation without naming names, just outlining what I needed. Information on someone who'd been involved in multiple property disputes, someone who likely had secrets worth protecting. How quickly do you need this? Soon as possible. My daughter's living with me while these people occupy her house. Rush jobs cost more. How much more? $5,000 retainer, 300 per hour after that. Average case like this runs about 10 to 12,000 total. Another 5 to 12,000 on top of Karen's fees. My retirement savings were evaporating, but what good was retirement if I couldn't look my daughter in the eye? When can you start? Send me the names and addresses. I'll start tomorrow. I sent the information from my phone, sitting in my truck while my crew finished lunch inside the renovation site. Around me, Northeast Portland bustled with afternoon traffic, people moving through lives that probably didn't include property fraud and family betrayal. I envied them for a moment, then pushed the feeling away. Envy didn't build houses, didn't protect daughters, didn't solve problems. Stephen Hayes moved like a ghost. For 5 days, I heard nothing from him except brief text updates. Surveillance initiated. Following target. Making progress. On the 6th day, he called and told me to meet him at Laurelhurst Park near the pond at 7 in the evening. I arrived to find him sitting on a bench feeding ducks, a compact man in his 50s with the kind of weathered face that suggested he'd seen things he'd rather forget. Mr. Martinez. He handed me a manila envelope without preamble. Everything you need. I opened it. Photographs spilled out. Patricia with a man who wasn't Gerald. The two of them entering a hotel on Southwest Morrison. The same two leaving 3 hours later. Patricia laughing, the man's hand on the small of her back. More photos from different days. Same hotel, same intimacy. Timestamps proved the pattern. Every Wednesday afternoon for the past 4 months. His name's Richard Chambers, Stephen said, still feeding ducks. Orthopedic surgeon, married with 3 kids. Patricia met him at a hospital fundraiser last year. They've been careful, but not careful enough. She thinks she's being discreet, but she parks in the same spot every week, uses the same entrance, same room on the 4th floor. Will this be enough? Depends what you're trying to do. Blackmail's illegal, just so we're clear. But information's power. How you use it is up to you. Stephen tossed the last of his breadcrumbs to the ducks. She's terrified of losing face if that helps. Checked her social media, her charity work. Everything's about maintaining this perfect family image. If this gets out, her whole life crumbles. I looked at the photographs again. Patricia's smile in these pictures looked genuine, unguarded in a way I'd never seen during the brief times we'd interacted. Whatever she felt for Richard Chambers, it was real enough to risk her marriage, her reputation, her carefully constructed life. Good. Real feelings made better leverage. How much do I owe you? 10 even. You can Venmo me. I transferred the money from my phone, watching my savings account dwindle further. Stephen stood, brushed breadcrumbs from his hands, and looked at me with something that might have been sympathy. Word of advice? People like Patricia, they're used to winning, used to being the predator. When you flip that script, they panic. Keep your cool. Don't gloat. Just get what you want and walk away clean. I'll keep that in mind. He nodded and walked away, leaving me alone with the photographs and a plan forming in my mind. The plan wasn't complicated. Blackmail rarely needed to be. Show Patricia the evidence. Make it clear what would happen if these photos went public. Give her a choice that wasn't really a choice at all. Leave Lisa's house voluntarily and immediately, or watch her perfect life explode. But first, I needed to tell Lisa what I was planning. Needed her to understand what I was about to do and why. Back at my cottage, I found Lisa in the kitchen making dinner. Pasta with the red sauce Elena used to make. The recipe Lisa had learned by watching her mother work. The smell brought memories flooding back. Elena stirring the pot while Lisa stood on a stool beside her. Both of them laughing about something I couldn't remember now. 8 years since cancer took Elena. 8 years of navigating life without her steady presence. Her wisdom, her ability to see solutions I missed. Lisa, sit down. We need to talk. She turned off the stove, concerned. What's wrong? I laid the photographs on the kitchen table, explaining what Stephen had found, what I was planning to do. Lisa stared at the images, her expression shifting from confusion to understanding to something harder, sharper. You're going to blackmail her. I'm going to give her a choice. That's blackmail, Dad. Yes. I wasn't going to lie about it, wasn't going to dress it up as something cleaner. It's blackmail, and it's probably the fastest way to get your house back. Lisa was quiet for a long time, studying the photographs. Patricia smiling. Patricia with her guard down. Patricia being human instead of cruel. When Lisa finally looked up, her eyes were clear. Do it. You're sure? She stole my house. She made me feel like nothing. She took the dream you gave up everything for and turned it into her own vacation home. Lisa's jaw tightened. Yes, I'm sure. Get my house back. The next morning, Saturday, I drove to Lisa's house at 8. Derek's BMW was gone, but Patricia's Mercedes sat in the driveway along with Gerald's Audi. I knocked hard enough to rattle the frame. Patricia answered, still in silk pajamas that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. Robert, what a surprise. We need to talk. Inside. I don't think that's appropriate. I pushed past her into the house that was supposed to be my daughter's sanctuary. Gerald sat at the kitchen table reading the newspaper, coffee steaming beside him. He looked up, startled, opening his mouth to say something I didn't care to hear. You've got 15 minutes to get out, I said. All of you. Pack your things and leave. Patricia laughed, that cold, brittle sound I'd grown to hate. I don't think so. We have... I tossed the manila envelope onto the table. A photograph slid out. Patricia and Richard Chambers entering the hotel, the intimacy clear even in the distance of the surveillance shot. Patricia's face drained of color. Gerald stood, grabbed the envelope, pulled out more photographs. His hands shook. What the hell is this? What does it look like? I kept my voice level, unemotional, exactly as Stephen had advised. Your wife's been meeting Richard Chambers every Wednesday for 4 months. Same hotel, same room, same time. I have dozens more photos. Video too if you want to see it. Patricia grabbed for the envelope, but I was faster, snatching it back. Where did you get these? Doesn't matter. What matters is I'm giving you one chance to walk away. Pack your things. Leave Lisa's house. Voluntarily. Immediately. Do that, and these photos stay private. You're blacking us. Patricia's voice shook. I prefer to think of it as offering incentive. You stole my daughter's house with forged documents. I could go to the police, press charges for fraud, property theft, coercion, but that takes time, and Lisa wants her house back now. So here's the deal. You leave, I keep the photos to myself. You refuse, and by tomorrow morning, these are on every social media platform you use. Your charity friends see them, your book club, the hospital fundraiser committee, everyone. Gerald sank back into his chair, staring at his wife, with a look I couldn't quite read. Betrayal, yes, but also exhaustion. Like this confirmed something he'd suspected for a long time. Patricia grabbed the table edge, knuckles white. Please, please don't do this. I'm not doing anything. I'm giving you a choice. I checked my watch. You've got 7 minutes now. I suggest you use them wisely. We need time to pack. You've got what you can fit in your car. The rest can be picked up later under supervision. 5 minutes. Patricia and Gerald moved in a panic, scrambling up the stairs, their muffled argument filtering down through the ceiling. I stood in Lisa's kitchen, my daughter's kitchen, in the house I'd bought with 27 years of construction work, and waited. At exactly 15 minutes, I called up the stairs. Time's up. Out. Now. They came down carrying suitcases, Patricia's makeup smeared from crying, Gerald's face set in grim lines. Patricia tried once more at the door, grabbing my arm. Robert, please, we can work something out. I'll pay you. You can't afford what I want. Leave. They left, got in their Mercedes, pulled out of the driveway with tires squealing slightly against the pavement. I watched them disappear down the street, then pulled out my phone and called Lisa. It's done. They're gone. Her voice cracked. Really? Really? Come home, sweetheart. Come home to your house. But I wasn't quite done. Derek still had keys. Derek could still come back. And Derek needed to understand that his wife's house wasn't his playground anymore. I changed the locks that afternoon, hiring a locksmith from a company I'd worked with on commercial projects. By 3, Lisa's house had new deadbolts, new doorknobs, new security that Derek's old keys couldn't penetrate. Then I waited, sitting on the front porch, while Lisa walked through her house alone, reclaiming each room with careful steps, touching walls like she needed to confirm they were real. Derek arrived at 4:30, parking his BMW in the driveway with his usual careless speed. He got out whistling, checking his phone, not noticing me until he reached the porch steps. "Robert, what are you doing here?" "Waiting for you." "Where's Lisa? And why's my mom's car gone?" "Your parents left. Your family's not welcome here anymore." Derek's expression shifted, confusion becoming anger. "You can't kick them out. We have legal documents. You have forged documents. The county verified it. Your fake notary stamps, your fake signatures, your entire scam, all documented. My lawyer has everything ready to file with the police." I stood, and even though Derek was taller, he stepped back. "But I'm giving you the same choice I gave your mother. Walk away. Don't come back. Do that, and we'll settle this privately. Refuse, and criminal charges go through tomorrow morning." "You're bluffing." "Try your key. See if I'm bluffing." Derek pushed past me, tried his key in the new lock. It didn't turn. He tried again, harder, then kicked the door in frustration. "You can't lock me out of my own house. It's not your house. It was never your house. It's Lisa's house, bought with my money, given to her as a gift. You have no legal claim here. Neither does your family." I pulled out my phone, showed him the lawyer's number on the screen. "One call, Derek. That's all it takes. Fraud charges, property theft, coercion. How do you think your hedge fund job handles employees with criminal records?" His jaw worked, fists clenching and unclenching. "Lisa put you up to this. Lisa wants you gone. So do I. You've got two choices. Leave peacefully or leave in the back of a police car. Decide. This isn't over." "Yes, it is. You just don't know it yet." I stepped closer, dropping my voice. "You made my daughter feel like nothing in her own home. You let your mother tear her down, mock her, treat her like a servant. You stood by and laughed. That's what you did. And now it's over." Derek stared at me for a long moment, and I saw the calculation happening behind his eyes, weighing options, measuring risks, deciding if fighting was worth what it might cost. Whatever conclusion he reached, it didn't involve staying. "Fine, but Lisa and I need to talk. About the divorce. About splitting assets." "There are no assets to split. She owned this house before you married. Everything else was hers before your relationship. You get nothing." "That's not how marriage works." "It's exactly how this marriage works. You want to argue? Get a lawyer. But you'll be arguing from a jail cell if you're not off this property in the next 60 seconds. He left, peeled out of the driveway the same way his mother had, angry and defeated and small. I watched until his BMW disappeared, then turned to find Lisa standing in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you, Dad. Thank you." I pulled her into a hug, holding her while she cried, feeling her shake with relief and exhaustion, and something that might have been the beginning of freedom. "You're safe now. It's over." But endings aren't clean, and the next few weeks proved that more than anything. Derek hired a lawyer, not as good as Karen Thompson, but expensive enough to make noise. Papers flew back and forth, demands and counter-demands, threats of lawsuits that never quite materialized. Karen handled everything with calm efficiency, and gradually Derek's lawyer began to understand what we'd known from the start. Derek had no legal standing, no legitimate claim, nothing but bluster and entitlement. The divorce papers arrived 3 weeks after I'd evicted his family. Lisa signed them without hesitation, her hands steady, and within another 3 weeks the marriage was dissolved. No alimony, no asset division. Just a clean break that left Lisa with exactly what she'd started with: her house, her independence, her life. Patricia tried calling once, 3 days after the eviction, leaving a message where she begged me not to release them. Photographs, promising she'd stay away from Lisa, swearing she'd tell Derek to back off. I never returned the call, never needed to. The threat had been enough, and keeping her scared ensured she'd stay gone. Lisa threw herself into reclaiming her house with an energy I hadn't seen since before Derek. She painted walls the color she'd always wanted, bought new furniture that matched her taste instead of Patricia's, planted roses in the garden, red ones, pink ones, white ones that bloomed in late summer sun. The house slowly transformed from the battleground it had become into something closer to the dream she'd sketched on that diner napkin so many years ago. I helped when I could, fitting visits between construction projects, bringing tools and expertise, and occasionally just my presence. We worked together in comfortable silence mostly, Father and daughter rebuilding more than just a house, rebuilding trust, rebuilding Lisa's sense of self, rebuilding the promise I'd made to Elena 8 years ago when cancer was taking her, and she'd made me swear to always protect our daughter. 2 months after the eviction, on a September evening when Portland's summer heat finally broke into cool autumn, Lisa and I sat on her porch watching the sun set behind the Tualatin Hills. The roses we'd planted were blooming, their colors bright against the dark soil, and the house behind us glowed with warm light from windows we'd cleaned together that afternoon. "Dad?" Lisa leaned against my shoulder the way she used to when she was small. "Yeah, sweetheart. Thank you, not just for the house, for fighting for me. You don't have to thank me for that. That's just what fathers do." "Not all fathers." She was quiet for a moment. Derek's dad knew what Patricia was doing, knew how they were treating me. He never said anything, never stopped it. "Gerald's not your father. I am, and I'll always fight for you." Lisa took my hand, squeezed it. "This house, it's more than just a house now. It's proof that someone loves me enough to fight. Proof that I'm worth fighting for. You've always been worth fighting for." We sat in comfortable silence, watching darkness settle over the neighborhood, lights clicking on in windows up and down the street. Somewhere a dog barked. Children laughed in a backyard. Normal sounds of normal lives, the kind of life Lisa deserved, the kind I'd fought to give her back. The house keys rested inside on the kitchen counter, no longer a symbol of theft and betrayal, but returned to their original purpose. Keys to a home, to safety, to dreams kept. The garden would need work in spring, roses requiring careful pruning to bloom their best. But we'd handle that together when the time came, father and daughter tending something beautiful in soil we'd prepared with sacrifice and love. Patricia never released the affair photographs, though rumors suggested Gerald filed for divorce 6 months later. Derek found work at a different hedge fund in Seattle and reportedly remarried within a year. I never followed their stories closely, never cared enough to track their lives beyond confirming they'd stayed away from Lisa. They'd taken enough of our time. They didn't deserve any more. Karen Thompson sent a final bill that wiped out the last of my retirement savings, but her work had been worth every penny. Stephen Hayes sent a bottle of whiskey with a note that read simply, "Good job." I drank it slowly over several months, raising a glass to Elena's memory each time, telling her about Lisa's house, about the roses blooming, about promises kept. Lisa rebuilt her life brick by brick, just as I'd built her house beam by beam. She dated occasionally but carefully, learning to recognize red flags she'd missed with Derek. She made friends in the neighborhood, joining a book club that met monthly, volunteering at a community garden where she shared her growing expertise with roses. Mrs. Anderson from next door became a particular friend, dropping by for coffee, bringing pie, treating Lisa like the daughter she'd never had. One Sunday in late October, nearly 5 months after the eviction, Lisa invited me to dinner at her house. She cooked Elena's red sauce recipe again, and we ate at the kitchen table. The same table where I'd confronted Derek, where photographs had spilled out and lives had changed. But now the table held only pasta and good wine and conversation about ordinary things. My latest construction project, Lisa's book club selection, whether the roses would survive Portland's coming winter. After dinner, washing dishes together at the sink, Lisa turned to me with a smile I hadn't seen in over a year, bright and genuine, reaching her eyes, transforming her face into the daughter I remembered from before Derek, before Patricia, before everything got complicated. "I'm happy, Dad. Really, truly happy." "I can see that. It took a while, but this house, it's finally mine. Not just legally, but actually mine. Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense." She dried her hands on a towel, looked around the kitchen that gleamed with cleanliness and care. "Sometimes I think about them showing up again, Derek demanding something, Patricia trying to manipulate me, and I realize I'm not scared anymore. If they came back, I'd tell them no. I'd stand up for myself. I wouldn't need you to rescue me." "That's growth, sweetheart. But I'm glad you did rescue me. That one time. I'm glad you fought." She hugged me tight. "I'll never forget that you were willing to give up everything for me. Your savings, your retirement, all of it. Worth it, every penny. We finished the dishes and sat on her porch again, wrapped in blankets against the October chill, watching stars emerge in Portland's clearing sky. The roses had stopped blooming for the season, but their bushes remained healthy, ready to return when spring came. Everything in the garden waited with that patient certainty of growing things, dormant but not dead, resting but not defeated, gathering strength for the next season of beauty. Lisa leaned her head on my shoulder, and I remembered carrying her on my shoulders when she was 5, remembered teaching her to ride a bike, remembered walking her down the aisle at her wedding to Derek, and ignoring the small voice that had whispered warnings I'd been too hopeful to hear. I'd made mistakes as a father, married her to the wrong man, missed signs I should have caught, waited too long to intervene. But I'd also fought when fighting mattered, sacrificed when sacrifice was needed, and kept the promise I'd made to Elena about always protecting our daughter. In the quiet of that October evening, with Lisa warm against my shoulder and her house standing solid behind us, I felt Elena's presence as clearly as I'd felt it in years. She would have approved of how this ended, would have been proud of Lisa's strength, satisfied by the justice of Derek's exile, pleased by the roses blooming where they were always meant to grow. The house keys still rested inside on the kitchen counter, but now they meant something different. Not just access to rooms and walls, but proof that love could triumph over cruelty, that patience and determination could outlast entitlement and manipulation, that promises kept through sacrifice mattered more than anything money could buy. A year later, Lisa refinanced the house, paying me back every penny I'd spent, the $473,000 from selling my construction share, the legal fees, the private investigator, all of it. I tried to refuse, but she insisted, transferring the money with a note. "You gave me my dream. Let me give you back your future." With that money, I bought back into Martinez Brothers Construction, returning to partnership with Carlos, working together like we'd always meant to. Lisa thrived in her house, turning the garden into something spectacular, hosting neighbors for summer barbecues, living the life she'd always deserved in the home she'd always dreamed about. And sometimes, on quiet evenings when work finished early, I'd drive to Beaverton and sit on Lisa's porch, drinking coffee, talking about everything and nothing, watching the roses bloom in cycles of color and beauty that returned each year with patient certainty. The house stood solid around us, walls that had witnessed theft and reclamation, rooms that had held cruelty and love, floors that remembered Patricia's clicking heels, but now only knew Lisa's comfortable footsteps. The dream sketched on a diner napkin by a 7-year-old girl had survived Derek and Patricia, survived manipulation and fraud, survived everything except time and determination and a father's refusal to let his daughter's hope die. And in surviving, it had become more than just a house. It had become proof that some promises matter enough to fight for, no matter what they cost, no matter how hard the battle becomes. Lisa's house stood as evidence of that. Truth, roses blooming in the garden, keys resting secure inside, my daughter safe and happy in the home I'd fought to give her back. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions in the comments below.